You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I know you love
Hit
it.
me.
It is Sunday at 2 p.m. on April 7th, and this is Cinema Smackdown. My name is Michael Brody.
Wait, is it time for the show? I don't think I'm here yet.
You're just barely here, which is keeping in line with the rest of our crew, who will be here eventually.
Is she on assignment again?
She's on an assignment that was supposed to bring her into our studio.
Oh! Well, that's novel.
I don't know. I don't have a clever analogy to tie this into today's theme.
Well, if I sound out of breath, it's just because I'm so excited for what we're talking about today.
Well, you're just really excited because it was, your 7th viewing of Big Eyes last night?
Oh, God, yeah, I can't get enough of that film.
Big Eyes, the most important Tim Burton movie. Did I just spoil that we're talking about Tim Burton movies today? So, Tim Burton has released a new film called Dumbo, which I will be seeing.
I have not heard of this.
Which I will be seeing.
Is this like a classic or something?
Just as soon as it's free.
Oh, right, that's that movie from 1941. I remember that now. Yeah.
It feels like Tim Burton would be at home making movies in 1941. I can guarantee you he would be making better movies if it was 1941.
Yeah, well, they'd strip out his special effects budget and make him tell a story.
Exactly. We are starting off slagging on Tim Burton, but we're actually here to give him a little love. We're going to talk about all of his movies today. But I didn't get a chance to discuss this with you off air, because you showed up 8 seconds ago.
Oh, right, okay.
Here is the way I'd like to do today's episode, and we can discuss this now while we're waiting for our co-host to show up. I think we should start with most recent films, excluding Dumbo, because no one has seen that, and then just work our way backwards so that we end on a high. Because, spoiler everybody, I've got exactly 20 years. It's my 20th anniversary of having seen a Tim Burton movie I even liked a little bit. 20
So, yeah,
years.
we're not big fans of his work of the 21st century. Mm-hmm. But before that, he was pretty cool.
No, he was phenomenal right up until 1999, and including 1999. And we'll get to that film as we work our way backwards, probably around the halfway point in the show. I don't know, I guess we're probably not going to spend too much time on the other films because they're worth slagging and they're worth picking on, but it's more interesting to talk about the stuff that works than the stuff that doesn't. It'll be an interesting reverse engineering of Tim Burton's career in the sense of, wow, more CGI, huh? More this, more that, more the other. I'm going to take a moment and pull out a list of Tim Burton films.
Oh, you high-tech people. I have it written down on a slip of paper.
Well, I have it written down on a slip of e-paper. See this charming yellow paper with a nice font?
Yeah, let's see how clever you are when that EMP goes off.
I've got my memories to go back on. He's the director who made... Wait, let me search my memory. He's the famous Dumbo director, right?
Oh, yeah. That thing that came out 5 minutes ago.
Well, let's take a moment to talk about how upset we are that Disney is remaking all of their cartoons horribly.
In quote-unquote, and I use this in very big quotes, live action.
Yeah,
because they're so CG heavy.
Mm-hmm.
The central characters tend to be very either CG enhanced or entirely CG creations.
I will admit to a certain tiny amount of interest in seeing a Batman Returns reunion, because two or three of the actors from Batman Returns are in this, including Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito. I listened to a new interview with Tim Burton this week.
No Christopher Walken, so that's a deal breaker.
I don't know. He might be hiding.
Oh, maybe you never know. That's true. He has done multiple Tim Burton films.
I listened to Burton talk this week about his career, and he mentioned that he had literally not spoken to Michael Keaton in 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 20 years they had not spoken. Not for not being friends, just for paths not crossing, being busy, and then they worked on a project together.
Yeah, I can't imagine Tim Burton is probably the most socially apt person out there. Yeah, I could see how he might lax in some of his schmoozing engagements.
His level of awkwardness in interviews is astonishing considering he's been doing this for 35 years. He still just basically says, I'm a weirdo and an outsider, and I kind of don't know what to say right now. And that's his review for everything.
I desperately need to make enough money to buy a comb.
It is true. Lisa Marie did take all the combs, and Carter took whatever else there was in the house with her when she...
Yeah, all those combs are still stuck somewhere in her mop.
I don't know how much the coming in late, creaking on the air. I don't know how much the outsider narrative still plays when you're doing a live-action Disney adaptation of Dumbo, you know?
Your literal 17th $100 million movie. Hey, welcome, Tess. It's good to see you.
Good to see
you. I was just reminiscing about that one time when you sent me a text at 12:30 saying, "Is our show starting at 1 today?" To which I said, "No, it's always 2." And you said, "I can't believe I've forgotten what time our show starts." And I reminisce about that because I wish you did that every week. Just think to yourself,
I'm only 6 minutes late. Calm down.
Show starts at 1. You get here about 1:40. Right on time for our 2 o'clock show. All right, let's
My
talk.
life is very full these days, Michael. What can I say? My loss is your gain, as you have now commandeered this entire show.
That's right. I've commandeered your radio show,
my
your
trivia
hosting.
Yep.
I'm dating most of the women you used to date. I'm certainly in line to date all the boys you used to date. We're just going to shuffle our sexualities back and forth. Let's change topics. Let's talk about trans movies. And bisexualism. That sounds like a more fun topic.
I'm down for that.
I hope that Tim Burton's bisexual. That would make him a lot more
Well, his wife is
interesting.
bisexual.
Which one of his 17 wives?
His current wife, Amanda Palmer.
Oh, I had no idea he was married again. I honestly thought
Or maybe they're not still married. I don't know.
I thought Amanda Palmer was with Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm totally mixing up my
guys
my
who
messy
look
hair,
just like Tim Burton.
messy hair
It's
Tim
weird
Burton,
that
messy-haired
like
weirdos. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think Tim Burton, after Helena Bonham Carter, who I don't think ever gets out of her Fight Club state of mind. I don't think that after that you can ever go back.
Is Marla?
I think she is.
No.
I think she's the literal living Marla.
Isn't she?
And
like,
then she ruined everything.
Isn't she like what's the version of knighted for women?
A dame.
A dame.
I don't think she's a dame, but she could be. I'm down with it.
I think she's a dame.
I'm down with those dames. She's a dame.
She's certainly a twist.
Oh dear. Thank you, Albert Finney. So we're talking about Tim Burton movies. We hadn't started yet. I figured, and I've already okayed this with Shane. Let's see if you throw a monkey wrench into the mix. Let's start at the most recent and work our way backwards to things we actually like.
So start at the Schlockfest, and then move into things that are somewhat that I now doubt my own opinion of because based on his more recent movies.
Oh, much like the way what was that film? Glass has subsequently gone back and ruined.
Has it shattered your opinion?
It has broken. I was one of those people who was like, no, M. Night Shyamalan's not that bad. He hasn't totally ruined his own career yet. He hasn't retroactively destroyed everything I've... Oh, yeah, he did it. He did it.
To be fair, The Happening is one of my favorite movies. I'll watch it anytime. It is so outrageously ridiculous.
It is a poor film.
It is awful. It is awful.
It is a very, very poor film.
It's awful in such a ridiculous way where you can just watch it and...
It's confidently awful.
It's confident and it's confusing. You watch it, every single moment you're like, what was he thinking?
Yep. At no point in that film do you think, this did seem like a good idea. At no point.
What he's thinking is, I crap gold. I don't have to polish this turd.
No, what he's thinking is, I'm the reincarnation of Alfred Hitchcock.
I don't agree
He
with
definitely
that.
sees himself as
he's
an Alfred
got that
Hitchcock
element,
type.
but I feel like maybe he thinks that without ever having seen a Hitchcock film.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. Yes.
You know,
he's heard of Alfred Hitchcock.
He's heard.
I am him.
Yeah. He's heard of Alfred Hitchcock, but mistook him for Roald Dahl, which is why everything has a twist.
Maybe somebody once reviewed The Sixth Sense as being Hitchcockian, and ever since then he decided that
he took his press seriously.
Yeah.
A lot of folks do that exact thing. So, let's see. All right, I've already said that I won't see Dumbo until it's free. Shane?
Even then,
yeah, I know.
I don't know if it's worth
Tess?
the time investment.
I'll probably go see it with the woman I'm dating who's a aerialist in the circus.
Oh,
she'll definitely want to go see it.
I can see that. I look forward to your...
She wants to see all the circus movies, and there aren't that many of them.
Okay, well, enjoy Batman Forever.
This is the same reason that I've seen that you know, the one, the Hugh Jackman one.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the movie where they take one of history's greatest villains and paint him as a hero.
Not just
and
a hero.
And it's a new movie.
He's a proponent for the rights of queers and colored people everywhere.
Just like the real Barnum was. Except the real Barnum was essentially a slave owner.
I'm aware.
He was essentially a slave owner and is a horrible monster.
Take her to see a Spanish film called The Last Circus.
I do not trust this.
I highly recommend it, and it'll be gold for your relationship, I'm sure.
Is this some kind of debauched horror film that you're sending me into?
We will be getting to circus performers when we arrive at Batman Returns.
Well,
I have a lot to say about that movie.
To be fair, this was really the trajectory of what's, oh my god, I almost called him Neil Gaiman.
I'm enjoying this. Let's mix in some American Gods mythos into these movies.
Can we conflate them with Alan Moore while we're at it?
Yeah.
He has enough. The next progression of giant floppy-haired men.
Well, he has enough beard hair to fill both their heads.
Yeah.
So.
But this is all the ultimate conclusion of Tim Burton's career, as he's been putting circus shit into non-circus movies forever, and now finally he's making a circus movie.
Well, Batman Returns is a circus movie.
Yeah.
Also, yes.
And a large part. And so
I hope you're not
gonna
hate on Batman Returns, because we're gonna physically fight.
Yeah, that's me. One of the 10 best movies I've ever seen. Watch me tear it apart. And for lots of creepy, weird reasons do I love that film. You know what I really enjoy?
Okay, wait. Let's do this. Should we?
We're going
not get distracted.
We're about to do Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Ooh, so stay tuned for that.
However, before we do that, we're gonna take an ad break.
Oh wow!
We've managed to talk our way to the first quarter of the show.
Sorry, guys. I really derailed things coming in.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's we'll just.
Why do you come in here? It's like you work here or something.
We were debating whether or not to speed through the last 20 years, and now it's pretty much a given. We can lop most of those into a single category, but we'll touch on the titles one by one.
CGI Schlockfest, is that the category?
Well, I will mention this right before we go to the ad break. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children was his return to far less CGI,
less
which
CGI,
you wouldn't understand. It doesn't look that way. But I've been reliably informed that there's plenty of stop motion and other methods in this. But of course, then they took whatever that was and CGI'd the hell over it.
CGI on top of it.
Much like the most recent Alien movies, where they had men in suits and then they CGI'd over them, so it just looks like...
I feel like it's an addiction. Like, they just can't help themselves from plastering CGI all over everything.
I can still see texture. Hurry, erase that.
And speaking of plastering CGI all over everything, let's plaster a few ads on the top of our show.
Nice.
We'll be back in a
Good
moment.
segue. Did you get my email about the annual general meeting on Sunday?
I did. I'm trying to figure out how to... I was figuring out how to phrase my... I'm not awake then. And I know I don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Without sounding like a dick.
Well, just be like, just make something up. Don't say, I'm not going to be awake then. She'll be like...
I know how to not. I mean, I'm happy to pay my dues. I'm also glad there's no record of this being recorded right now.
No one will ever find out about this.
This is the magic of thinking the microphone is off while you're in the box on a cop show.
I'm just saying, don't run for office.
Well, you can go one of two ways.
We've discussed murder.
You can be squeaky clean.
Off the air, but in front of this. So.
You have 20 seconds. You can be squeaky clean, that could be one way of going to office, or you can be the dirtiest motherfucker ever. That seems to work pretty well, too.
Even more effective.
I've noticed that seems to be a valid technique these days for office. Just say every terrible thing that comes into your mind, and people will vote for you.
And the key is to be unashamed of it.
Speaking of unashamed, we're back on the air.
Oh, I thought we were speaking of naked and ashamed.
No, not yet. We are... What network are we on again? We are on CJLO. This is 1690 AM. Our show is called Cinema Smackdown. We have joined together in this wonderful sauna. Feel free to open a window, as it is actually... When I'm noticing it's warm, something's up.
There's a real problem.
Something's up.
The building's only on fire again.
We're talking Tim Burton movies. That's because he released something last week, and...
that we're all kind of disinterested.
We're kind of contractually obligated to bring up filmmakers.
Have you seen any of the live-action Disney films? Sorry, I keep
derailing the conversation. I'm sad to say I have seen the Beauty and the Beast movie to some degree, and it's hard to get through.
I've seen, pieces of previous Cinderella and the Beauty and the Beast, and I was just like, no.
The problem, of course, is
and I watch fucking everything.
The Beauty and the Beast movie made $1 billion.
I know they're just gonna keep printing money with these.
I can't wait to see Will Smith's allegedly frightening performance as Aladdin.
Yeah. No, he's the genie.
Well, he's a genie.
He's a genie. That's me. Not caring. Then the Jon Favreau.
You haven't been watching that trailer on loop for the past 2 weeks since it dropped?
Oh, funny, but no. Jon Favreau has already made The Jungle Book, and now he's making The Lion King. So there's a ton of these coming. All right, but does anybody have a thought on Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, other than it doesn't really work and isn't great, but I hear it's a good book?
I was kind of excited for it when I saw the initial trailers. It looked a lot like a classic Tim Burton.
For 15 minutes, it does seem promising, and then it just
meanders.
It's messy.
It's messy, and nothing really makes any sense. And there's CGI all over everything. And there's a couple of cute moments in the movie, but
there's CGI all over everything, much as all of Tim Burton's most recent movies have Eva Green all over everything. She is his new
replacement, Helena Bonham Carter.
Exactly. Yeah. She's in 3 or 4 of his movies and just seems to keep coming around. I like Eva Green somewhat. She's got great movies and bland movies. And Shane, what is our favorite movie with her?
This is fun.
Isn't it? I love the dead air.
I like Casino Royale, but
that
we love. Oh.
Starring Ryan Phillippe, that no one's ever heard of, about the city that's got all these religions in it. It's a fantasy film with a reality check.
I'm drawing a blank.
I can't remember the title, which is why I'm drawing it out this way.
Oh, okay.
It's the one where Ryan Phillippe walks around in a mask for the entire movie, questioning people like he's Rorschach.
Oh, God.
It's the name of the street that the film takes place on.
Oh, that thing. God, yeah. No, that's completely slipped my mind.
I keep thinking it's called Walter.
Okay,
let's
move on.
When you're telling us, it's one of your favorite films that you could barely remember. It's like, well, no.
It's just the title is,
Okay, let's move on from the film that we can't remember the name of that's not made by Tim Burton.
I don't think you understand how this show works.
Episode.
Go right ahead. So we're done with Miss Peregrine. It's bad. Shane, you recently watched Big Eyes.
Yeah, I did. It was part of that period of Tim Burton films where I stopped caring enough to watch.
By the way, I'm going to cut in. It's called Franklin. The movie is called Franklin.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
It's a minor masterpiece.
I think we should spend the rest of the show talking about Franklin.
By the way, at some point in the near future, Shane and I are going to do an entire episode about filmmakers who've only made 1 or 2 movies that we think are brilliant. That will be on the list.
Oh, okay.
It's going to go along.
I might have to rewatch it because my memory is dim.
And Fred Decker and a few other people who've only made a couple films. Wow, that seemed like a conversation killer.
Yeah.
Episodes.
Damn you.
Big Eyes.
Big Eyes, yeah. I was very interested in finally getting around to see this because it's another Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski biopic, and I like all the other ones they've done, including another one from Tim Burton, which is my favorite one of those films, which we'll get to probably 3 episodes from now because we're drawing this one out really long. But Big Eyes, I'm afraid it's about as empty and vacuous as the paintings it's about.
Yep. It's a
very competently made film, but I consistently didn't care.
2/3 of the way through, you're like, I get it. He took credit. And
to be fair, I enjoyed the movie. I liked it when I watched it. I liked it when I watched it, and then I've never had another thought about it since.
Yeah.
So
again, it's a completely competent drama, but it doesn't. There's no magic in it.
There's no magic.
It's kind of lacking that extra hook that makes you care, because the other one they did for him is, of course, Ed Wood, and his life was based on the book Nightmare of Ecstasy, and is just chock full of crazy anecdotes to carry the film through. So much so that they had to cut about an hour of the script out, even though Tim Burton basically shot a first draft of that film.
Are we talking about Ed Wood now?
Well, I'm just using this as an example. This was the film. This was that biopic done properly, whereas Big Eyes did not have enough of that material. It's like, yeah, you married a bit of a douchebag, and he started to take credit for your paintings, and it was a feasible financial model to make you too rich. And, yeah, it's like, oh, that's not really right, is it? Yeah, it's still not really right. An hour later, it's still not really right, but I guess I'll go along with it. And it's like, okay, I've had enough of this.
I get it, it's true. I get it, it's true. Okay. At any rate, yeah, it's not a wonderful film. But, yeah, that's Big Eyes. I bet you're glad you spent 2 hours of your life watching that now that you could have that important conversation about it.
Well, hey, I've talked about it on 2 shows now, so it was totally worth it.
Let's move back one to Frankenweenie. Any thoughts?
I have
0. I did not care.
Remake of his early successful short
film.
Yeah. Oh, I like the short. The short was cute.
Well, the part where the dog drinks and
that's
water
my favorite part too, and water comes
stitches,
out of his neck,
and that's it.
Yeah.
At least it's an example of, I guess Disney had their hands all over this, and they took what was originally a live-action film and made it animation. So, a reversal.
It was a reversal.
It's a twist.
Anyway, terrible. Continuing.
I saw it, but it was fun and very forgettable.
Then we had something that was a passion project for both Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. They wanted to do a Dark Shadows movie.
This is the one that broke me.
Oh,
and
man.
it's so poor.
I really want to like this film too.
Confusing, difficult, not interesting.
When I was watching this movie, I was confused that it was directed by a director who has directed things before. That was how bad it was that I was like, this is so incompetent. It seems like it's being made by a student who's never directed a film before.
It is truly a horrible mess. Based on the 1970s very strange soap opera.
Daily soap opera.
Yeah. And
centered around a weird vampire. And
even then, it wasn't that initially. It sort of became that as the show.
Well, as a person who's watched all 9,000 episodes of Dark Shadows, tell us the entire plot.
I have seen clips and no more. But if I was going to watch a soap opera in the 1970s, that would be the one.
Right. That was the Dark Shadows.
And you were better off watching all 9,000 episodes of that than you are the movie.
And yet, the movie has moments. It still has those little scenes, like when he's sitting around a campfire with a bunch of hippies. That scene's great.
Look, there's lots of stuff that made me go, I want this to be good.
But it has,
please improve.
45-minute fight scene at the end of the film between him and Eva Green that is... It's unwatchable and drawn out.
Maybe this is why I think Eva Green is the worst.
It's so full of CGI, it just won't go away. He keeps punching her in the face, and pieces of her face keep breaking off like porcelain.
Oh, is that why she has crooked eyes?
And this scene won't end. It just goes on and on and on and on. Anyway, speaking of going on and things that won't end, 2010's Alice in Wonderland movie that he made.
Is that the sequel?
It must have been great because there was a sequel.
He didn't touch the sequel. Here's the thing about the Alice in Wonderland movie. It opens with a scene of Alice showing you that she is a forward-thinking, liberated woman as a child. And I don't hate that scene, where she's just showing, but I don't want to do what my family says I should do.
I mean, it's very paint by numbers, but sure.
But that scene was fine, and then she goes down the rabbit hole, and the movie is unbelievably intolerable for 2 solid hours, and then they come back to that little bookend moment of her coming back to reality, and I was like, and this part's okay again. But here's where a movie loses me. As we all in this room know, there is a thing called the uncanny valley, where something looks kind of human, but not quite right, and that makes it much more disturbing than if it didn't look real. And
that would be every character in this movie.
Every character. Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter.
It's only Johnny Depp in this case.
No, Helena Bonham Carter also looks insane.
They took Johnny Depp's face, and they CGI'd his eyeballs and made them 2/3 bigger, so that he doesn't look entirely wrong, just a little off, except it never stops being obvious that he's been retouched.
But I loved him when he started Battle Angel Alita. So.
Haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment on the Johnny Deppness of that film.
I'm going to disagree with you here and say that that was not the thing that made the film intolerable, but that, in fact, everything made the film intolerable.
I see we're just disagreeing on levels of hatred for this movie.
I love Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. Like, those were my jams growing up. I loved those books. And I was excited to see Tim Burton, although not super excited because I've seen his movies. I had seen his movies
You'd seen,
in that
at this
era.
point,
at that time.
his 10 years of bad films.
Yeah. So, but I was very excited, and I saw it, and it is just everything in it is CGI nonsense.
It is.
It made Lewis Carroll turn over in his grave so hard it threw off the rotation of the Earth.
I thought you were going to make a math joke. That would have been fun.
That would have been good, yeah.
That would have been fun. But you had physics on your side.
But really, the story of Alice in Wonderland is already great, or weird. You don't need to make it weirder with this war of something and whatever. It made no sense.
I asked a trivia question a couple weeks ago at Trivia, and it was one of those questions where no one knows the answer to this, but when you give the answer, everyone's a little sad.
Right, what was it?
And my question was, what is Alan Rickman's final film performance?
Oh, is it the caterpillar?
It's in a sequel. It's in a sequel, and it's only his voice, and it's the Alice in Wonderland sequel.
Oh,
and
God.
literally no one in the room got it, and yet every person hearing the answer just a little tiny groan of,
well,
how terrible.
That's the point of being a master of ceremonies on a trivia night, is to make the entire room sad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically.
I like it.
Yeah.
It makes them drink more, at least.
That is a very good point, too. That's plenty said about Alice and the Alice canon.
Let me just say, every single frame of that movie is disgusting.
Yes, agreed.
So
I'm happy to agree with that one.
Let's talk about one of the most non-musical musicals ever made.
The magical Sweeney Todd,
The Damon
only ever captured better on film by Kevin Smith in an exceptionally long sequence of his most heralded movie, Jersey Girl.
Oh, God.
There is so much Sweeney Todd in that movie, it feels like a Sweeney Todd adaptation, and it actually feels like a more successful Sweeney Todd adaptation than this one. But I'm not a fan, so I'm not slagging it for not being, say, canon for Sweeney Todd.
No, it's fine. It's just as a musical. I thought there was maybe 1.5 serviceable songs in it,
right?
And the rest are, this isn't really a song.
Unless I'm mistaken, isn't the composer of the original musical the same guy who co-wrote one of the best 1970s movies, which was The Last of Sheila? Isn't he the guy?
Oh, yes, that's true.
I believe
That's true.
the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
So, huge thumbs down for Sweeney Todd and everything associated with it. But huge thumbs up for The Last of Sheila.
I liked it.
Is one of the great, bizarre whodunit films of all time. A 70s movie with Richard... no, we got his name?
James Coburn.
James Coburn, jeez. I was really blanking on that name. And a variety of other amazing actors, but we're not talking about James Coburn movies today. That's next week's show. Everyone loves a good James Coburn retrospective. To be honest, I would do one.
I want to do a biopic about him, again, by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski.
Can we get Rami Malek to star in it? He's really good at wearing giant teeth.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and I want to call it Big Teeth.
I like it. But I stand by my Rami Malek comment. We were racing to the same joke from opposite ends of the earth. Any thoughts on this Sweeney Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to die on the Sweeney Todd hill. It wasn't a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it. It was less CGI-ful than
it had the ingredients, but my main criticism is I don't like the music in it very much. And for a musical, it's a bit of a killer.
It is a bit of a killer. Speaking of killers,
no pun intended.
Killer radio station, CJLO 6090, you're listening to Cinema Smackdown, where we are breaking down the film career of Tim Burton. At the moment, breaking it down is pretty accurate.
We started with the...
with the latest hits.
It'll be nice to end on a high note, I guess.
Exactly. Well, we're halfway through the show, and we are almost at the end of the
bad period.
Significantly bad films. All right, moving back one, we've got Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is an offensive remake. Atrociously offensive remake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to add to that.
I'm good.
Also,
it's a hate crime of a movie.
What year did this come out? I think
2005.
I think this was a year in which I was still a big fan of Johnny Depp and also Tim Burton. What did he do right before this?
We'll get to that.
Okay. Well, I
wasn't
recall still being a huge fan of Johnny. I was a huge fan of Johnny Depp when I was younger, and Tim Burton was, Tim Burton's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing this movie and being really devastated and also confused because I wanted to be like, no, I see what's happening. But Johnny Depp's performance in this movie is atrocious.
It's poor.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
his wig does more work than he does.
This is the one that broke Johnny Depp for me because,
Yes.
before that it's like, oh, you always kind of wanted to see what he was going to do next. And then it's like, okay, all you can do is quirky bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm back on the Johnny Depp train. He has made the weirdest choices of his career in the last 10 years.
Oh, maybe he's got a new agent.
I'm enjoying them. I am happy when people tell me they hate him now. It just makes it easier to enjoy it because there's no fun loving the top-rated matinee idol. It's more fun to he's become a total character actor. He's no longer
there has been a recent shift, and he's back to being a little bit interesting. Mm-hmm. But he had that period, sort of like Robin Williams had that period as well. This sort of awful middle period where it was like schmaltzy, quirky, saccharine crap.
But luckily, Robin Williams bounced back with
did he ever?
With RV.
That's
insanity. No, he did have a real career resurgence several times. He has pockets of wonderful darkness.
And I think a lot of the time, if you look behind the scenes, it's usually a matter of, and then they changed agents.
Yep. So let's change movies. We'll go back one more. This is the one that I'm hoping no one in the room has anything good to say about because I really despise this movie, but it has a lot of love. It's Big Fish. I hate this movie because of its lack of logic in sequences where they describe fantasy scenes. There are scenes where characters have these things they need to overcome in the movie. I need to stop this giant from eating me. I need to do this other thing. And all of the resolutions to these are nonsensical. They don't make a lick of sense.
It's a fantasy film. It's meant to be...
Oh, I see.
It's meant to be fantasies. It's not a fantasy film.
It is a terribly constructed story, much like Harry Potter movies are terribly constructed.
I agree with you about Harry Potter movies and the movie Sucker Punch, but...
Anyway, I despise Big Fish despite the fact that I have said this many times. The ending of the movie is wonderful.
The ending of the movie is wonderful. The performances are great. The
it's
visuals are beautiful in the
30 minutes
film.
before that just make me want to gouge my own eyes out. And no, I don't agree with you about performances. I don't agree with you about visuals. It is a CGI garbage fest.
To be fair, I haven't seen it in a long time, but from what I can recall...
You and I agree. The last 10 minutes are magic. I wish they were on a good film. They do take the theme of what the whole movie is and end on a brilliant note, but I hate the journey. So, screw you, Big Fish.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it a lot when it came out. And
you were still under the Tim Burton haze.
I was still in my Tim Burton haze.
What can I say? Big Fish is the Big Eyes of fish movies.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, beautifully said.
We move back one more to the last movie that I really don't care for, which I can still slightly defend, only in terms of it looks amazing.
Well, I think you're missing one.
I'm skipping no
Corpse
films.
Bride. Corpse Bride.
Oh dear, did I skip Corpse Bride?
Because I just want to say about Corpse Bride, which is not great as well. I think it's missing an entire act of material.
It's not excellent, but I liked it a lot. I love stop motion, so that's...
I like the look, but...
Is it real stop motion, or is it CGI
it's real
meant
stop
to look
motion.
like stop motion? It's been too long.
See, it feels like Tim Burton got really sick and tired of everyone congratulating him about The Nightmare Before Christmas, which he didn't direct. Everyone thinks he directed it, but it was actually directed by Henry Selick, based on a lot of Tim Burton ideas and sketches. Yeah. It has a Tim Burton feel and look. But it's not a Tim Burton film.
Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas on the cover.
Yeah, so exactly. So tired of getting false credit for that, he said, well, fine, I'm going to make my own puppet movie.
And it's not nearly
And he did. It's not nearly as good.
Is it me, or does Tim Burton have the same career trajectory as Stan Lee? It's always Stan Lee's this and Stan Lee's that, and he's like, I'll show you, I'll do my own thing, and then he actually writes something and everyone goes, oh dear, this is quite poor.
Well, what Tim Burton has to do then is to outlive everybody and then steal credit because no one's alive to challenge him.
Yeah.
That's the Stan Lee method.
Let's be clear, he has very successfully stolen all of the kudos away from Henry Selick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I do feel terrible about Henry. Henry Selick should have a much bigger career.
Yes.
You're right. I wanted multiple Monkey Bone sequels.
Who didn't?
That man has made some terrible career choices. Everything after that film is bad.
Didn't he do? Is he the one who did Coraline? Was that him?
I don't remember.
I think he did.
Oh, it might have been.
I'm
it
not
might have
guaranteeing
but more
anything.
importantly, he's the guy who did all the weird animated creatures in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I did not
So-
know that.
Okay, I'm back on board.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I'm
No,
100%
I think he
back on
did do
board.
Coraline, which I loved. But
I'm medium on that
I loved
one.
Coraline.
It's okay.
Which was written by Tim Burton. No, Neil Gaiman. No, Alan Moore maybe.
No, we've come full circle.
But
Alright.
no, I actually really enjoyed Coraline, although I was very disappointed with it when I actually saw it because yes, I was expecting a return to Nightmare Before Christmas. It doesn't come close to Nightmare Before Christmas, but there are a lot of really cute moments, and the aesthetic is really great and everything. So
Well, let's just move back one movie from Big Fish, which is Planet of the Apes, which is a terrible, terrible, terrible,
movie
terrible
that I
movie.
love.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it has moments. The last, I mean, it like most Planet of the Apes movies, because there are a lot of them. The majority of them is interesting for about an hour, and then a lot of fighting, which I don't care for, and it's certainly the newest attempt at doing a franchise. This was an attempt to start a franchise.
That failed miserably.
It has a bad last hour and then an incomprehensible tag.
The ending is a spectacular example of how not to write for the screen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because there's a thing called closure, where you can jump from point A to point C, or even point D, and allow the audience to fill in the blanks between, oh, there must have been a B here and a C here. Okay, fine. The ending of Planet of the Apes jumps from point A to point Q.
Yeah.
And
there's no logic.
It's like, you could maybe extrapolate how that ending is possible, but there's too many dots to connect for any audience.
Yep.
It's I can't believe that got past a single audience test screening.
Yeah. That's all I have to say about Planet of the Apes.
But spectacular
to me,
makeup.
It's kind of like Tim Burton's The Happening. I love watching it.
Yeah, it's fine.
I love watching it. It's not good.
It is, though, the first sign that, oh, wow, these used to be good. What's going on? And, of course, then there's a progression of each film being worse after that. But let's go back one.
Well, I would say Corpse Bride is better than...
He did... Look, here's the thing. Corpse Bride was made the same year as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which means... Tim Burton probably, and I don't mean this to be a jerk, but this is how it happens in the industry, he probably directed Corpse Bride over the phone, which is the same way that Wes Anderson directed his stop-motions movies the same year that he directed a live-action film. You can't be in the studio every single day.
Yeah, you're not going to watch a guy move a puppet a fraction of an inch and take a frame.
While the entire movie is a Tim Burton film, he probably wasn't present for the majority.
I don't really
there was
care
a lot of
how much he was present. I care about the film that I'm watching.
Yeah, all right. So,
yeah, but it's the sort of thing you can direct in the evenings when your email comes in.
I mean, how long was Spielberg on the set of Ready Player One?
I'd like
8.5 minutes.
He showed up for the catering and went home.
He's still there waiting to be called in to do the first shot. Is what I think about that.
It's true. There are no actual shots in that film.
So prior to Planet of the Apes, Tim Burton made a movie called Sleepy Hollow, which I love, but is the first kind of bad movie.
I absolutely love Sleepy Hollow.
But I do love it.
And I will also admit that it's not exactly the tightest or best film ever made, but personally, I absolutely 100% love the film.
A lot of difficulties with it, but I mostly enjoy it, and I don't agree that that's his first bad film.
Okay. Well, you're right. There's previous movies kind of bad. But at any rate, with Sleepy Hollow, there is a mix of true practical effects in this movie, and horrid CGI. So there's a little bit of both, but at least there's some true practical, especially in the beheading moments. There are some that are
some really great
phenomenal Stan Winston, I believe, special effects of heads just coming off in the most upsetting way possible. Sometimes characters who you're like, well, this guy will certainly, and his head comes off, and you're like, I thought he'd make it.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal. It's before we were sick of Johnny Depp. It's before we were sick of Helena Bonham Carter.
Plus, it has Christopher Walken as the head of the Headless Horseman.
Yes,
he's amazing.
Love it. I love it.
He's amazing in it in his role of only saying the word.
And having pointy teeth.
I loved his pointy teeth. It's very weird, gothic, creepy. I love Christina Ricci in it. It speaks to me. It spoke to me in my youth.
I did really enjoy one thing that I remember from the press tour. Somebody said, was it dreamy kissing Johnny Depp? To which she replied, he's like 40. You're being so gross right now. And she was just being completely honest in the moment, because she was about 19 when
right,
the movie was
yeah.
made. It was just
totally.
one of those moments like, oh, thanks
And
for
now
being
she's
candid.
58.
Well, she looks older. Does that
And
count?
she would love for a 40-year-old to kiss her again.
Oh.
That's a little even by
much.
my
Little
standards.
much.
All right, so I am a big fan of that. I could actually talk about that for about 40 minutes, but we don't have that kind of time today. So let's move backwards to, is this the one you think is bad?
Yeah, I do
Okay.
not like Mars Attacks.
Yeah, I like how hateful it is. I like how
Yeah,
mean,
there's a mean spirit to it that I
But
appreciate.
you're right that as a full movie, it's
And I will
kind of
readily admit it's the
irritating.
best film ever made based on stickers.
I love Mars Attacks, so I'm going to be the odd man out on this one. I love Mars Attacks. It's definitely a sloppy film in terms of structure. It's sort of just everything but the kitchen sink thrown
It's a stunt casting
in together.
movie,
It's a
too.
stunt casting
so
movie.
Many people
It's
being
ridiculous, but it's just a pastiche of ridiculous nonsense, and I love it.
It
from
was
beginning
definitely
to
the
end.
first crack in the armor for me for Tim Burton's career, because up until then I think the movies are pretty untouchably great.
Yeah.
And we will move back one now.
Yeah, we've
to
already discussed Ed Wood to a certain degree, but I will reiterate.
It is-
It's my favorite Tim Burton film.
Oh,
And,
getting choked up. talking
Yeah, no, it's I'm about to bust out into tears that I love Ed Wood so very much.
No, Ed Wood is an absolute masterpiece of cinema. It is absolutely a gorgeous movie. The performances
There
are
will
amazing.
be an Ed Wood question at next week's trivia.
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Oh,
And
boy.
it's a real question. It's a you gotta know who he is question.
Part of me still wants a sequel to Ed Wood that covers the back end of his career,
I would
which is
happily
nothing but
watch that.
alcoholism and depression and
Pornography.
horror and pornography
Lots
and
lots
and
of
domestic
pornography.
abuse and just it would be so utterly depressing.
The
But
movie-
if Johnny Depp today played
Yes.
that would be amazing.
I would 100% be into it. You know, they could just get John Waters to direct it.
Oh, yeah,
my
yeah, no,
God.
I'd be
Wait,
for that.
Did we just pitch $1 million idea? That's about the budget we would get for this film.
Yeah, about the budget we get, it would still
Well,
lose money.
It is worth mentioning. Oh no, that's also I can't do it. I was going to talk about the budget, but that's actually a trivia question I'm going to ask too. But it's a funny trivia question about the budget for the movie. Anyway, I will say this: the budget for Ed Wood is tiny, and it only made a tenth of it back.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful,
Not,
beautiful
not
film.
a successful film.
It's
Well,
a-
it's too late to pay into the box office now, but I highly recommend everyone see that one.
yes,
Head out to the
let's do
theater,
that.
folks. It may be called Dumbo, but when you sit down,
It'll be Ed Wood.
when you sit down in the cinema, just pull out your tablet and watch Ed Wood.
yeah, you're better off.
Yeah, Ed
The
Wood
people
is
sitting next to you will probably thank you.
Ed Wood is a pretty wonderful film. It won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor pretty reasonably.
Oh yeah,
widely.
Martin Landau is fantastic as Bela Lugosi in it, and other great cast members, including Bill Murray. Can't go wrong with a Bill Murray.
Well, we are going to take a pause from Tim Burton movies for a moment. We will come back with the, in my opinion, literal greatest hits. I know you love Ed Wood, but I love a couple a little bit more. Right after this message from something called Reader's Poll.
Are you sure that's not a porno? Yeah. Here's my reader's poll, baby.
I'm not sure. Listen carefully and find out. Although I like that as a porno name.
Reader's Poll.
Like there should be more pornography, modern pornography.
More
made
reader
with
named-
brilliant titles rather than just dirty part.
I want
names.
reader
That's all they are anymore.
reader-themed porn names, like Easy Reader.
I like it. We recast with a lady. I'm not interested in watching a Morgan Freeman look-alike bang a bunch of people. But although, to be honest, that now sounds kind of interesting.
What's Long Dong Silver up to these days? He could be the Morgan Freeman stand-in for that.
I have a feeling what he's up to is pushing daisies, would be my guess.
And he probably still has better skin than Morgan Freeman.
Oh my God,
that's
you're
mean.
today.
Mean.
What's
Like Morgan
happening?
Freeman.
We're off the
I
air.
think he looks good.
We're off the air and just
I think
entertaining
he looks
YouTube
good
people.
while he's patting ladies behind and telling them that they've got a shot in this industry. That seems to be his thing. We're back. We're back in a moment. Here we go. And we're back on CJLO's 1690. The show is called Cinema Smackdown. We're counting down the Tim Burton hits, and we've actually arrived at films I like. It took a while, but we've made it.
We got there, guys. We
All right.
got there.
There are two Batman movies.
Yes.
Now, I think we should kind of talk about them in the proper order as opposed to the
sure, fair enough.
So let's do Edward Scissorhands first, because that was the movie he made in between two Batman films.
Yeah, basically when he had the box office cachet to cash in and say, look, here's my personal project, and then I'll do another Batman.
Yep. And I love Edward Scissorhands. It is not a perfect movie. It's a little weird, and I don't mean it's a little weird like Tim Burton wanted it to be weird. It's got some pacing issues in the middle, the last third. Yeah, even rewatching it, I'm like, yeah, it works, but it's a little messy. But it is just a fable in the end. It's a weird modern fable mixed with gothic stuff.
Right.
Everybody's good in it, though.
And it fulfilled Tim Burton's lifelong dream to work with Vincent Price.
Yeah.
So that alone is like... Yeah, talk about a dream project. That is Tim Burton's dream project.
It's worth mentioning because we're not gonna end on this, but Tim Burton made a short film prior to his features, which was called Vincent. It's a stop motion film that basically just looks like little Johnny Depp, and it's voiced by Vincent Price, and it is a wonderful 8-minute short. It is pretty much perfect in every way. Tim Burton has never recaptured anything as well as that little short in his feature work. Although I like a lot of his feature work. Yeah. But Vincent is the highest. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're a Tim Burton fan, Vincent is a must-see.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Of course, in 8 minutes, he does more for me than he did in hours of Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie.
He did more for me in that 8 minutes than he has in the last 20 years.
That sounds dirty. That's all right.
But,
at any rate, so,
Edward Scissorhands, another classic of my childhood that I was completely in love with. It's true that the structure of the film is not super tight in the last third, but to be honest, I don't really care that much. If you're entertaining me, I don't care about a film slowing down in the last third.
I mean, come on, it brought us a roided up Anthony Michael Hall. So.
Well, yeah, that was the freakiest thing about that film when everyone saw it. It's like, oh my god, wasn't he the nerd in John Hughes films, and now he's the big scary bully?
Yep. And he's actually a really successful big scary bully. He's carried that role forward into lots of stuff, including the TV show Community, where they kind of did a John Hughes tribute episode in which he's the bully.
Yes, I remember those episodes.
It's really odd.
Yeah, he shows up a couple times.
All right, so let's talk about the phenomenon movie that was the two Batman films. Well, certainly the first one was... I've never seen something spread like wildfire, like the announcement that they were making a serious Batman movie. Now, I know that these days people look back at that film and like, it's so much comedy in this. But by the standards of the time, it was about the darkest movie ever made. I still like it. I don't hate that movie, the first Batman.
It ushered in
some
the era of modern superhero movies, because before that, the only real successful one was Superman.
Right.
Whereas, and it was just, they were considered box office poison. Hollywood really didn't want to touch them, and they're kind of, okay, fine, let's do Batman. And it was such a stylized piece of work that it just captured the audience's imagination and became a massive hit.
Yeah,
and also made Jack Nicholson richer than God.
Yeah, because he took a percentage of
the merchandising,
royalties and merchandise rather than an exaggerated fee, and he got over $50 million for the film in the end.
Which in the 80s was just
unbelievable. And unless I'm mistaken, he held on to a percentage of the merchandising going forward. So it's like Jack Nicholson owns a piece of Batman. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's something I heard at the time. Yeah,
basically,
I don't know how long that deal worked.
After 1989, Jack Nicholson never had to work another day in his life if he didn't want to.
And he never really did, if you look at his performance.
Well, yeah, whatever he did after that is like, well, I guess you wanted to do this one because you don't have to.
He was really into the catering on Man Trouble. You guys don't even know what movie that is, do you?
No, not even.
He made about 3 years after Batman, and it's not good. It's a Bob Rafelson film. It's a really bad movie. He has a giant mustache in it. That's what makes it different. It's the Nicholson with a mustache movie.
Oh,
so Batman destroyed his career, is what you're saying.
No, but he's great in Batman. I think that's still an excellent film. It's a very like golden age avuncular mobster version of the Joker, which is a great version of the Joker that we've moved on now to the sort of modern age comic book version of the Joker, which is like this psychotic madman
which we will never
loves
see
to watch
the end
things
of now,
burn,
that's
blah
just
blah
gonna get
blah,
repeated to
hot
the end of
topic
time.
thing. But I love the sort of mobster, sort of cheerful uncle who will then shoot you in the face version, melt your face off with some beauty products version.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of imperfections in that film, and I think there was a lot of studio notes that helped keep it be all it could be, which I think is why Tim Burton came back for the sequel, where he had the power to do it the way he wanted to do it.
If you come back, you can do whatever you want. And the sequel, Batman Returns,
is magnificent.
Is one of the most batshit crazy movies I've ever seen, and is brilliant because of it.
I'm so glad to hear you say this, Michael. I thought we were going to have to fight.
No, I have one example from this movie, which I think is perhaps the finest example of, did I really just see that in a movie moments. Batman fights a lot of circus characters in this movie because there's an evil circus gang run by the Penguin. They have to fight different kinds of people. The bearded lady, the fire breather. These make sense. I get it. There is a scene in this movie where one of the circus performers charges at Batman during a fight scene. And it's fast, but if you're paying attention, you can see what's happening. The circus performer who charges at Batman is a sword swallower. And he charges at Batman with a sword down his throat. He tries to fight him with a sword already down his throat. How does Batman disable this guy? He grabs the hilt of the sword, pulls it out of the guy's mouth, and clubs him with the handle. This is how Batman dispatches a man who's carrying a sword in his esophagus. What I love about this scene is it's outrageously insane, and that someone somewhere proposed this idea, and that somewhere along the line, no one said, that's too crazy to work.
They proposed it, they blocked it out, they choreographed it. It was some kind of special effect to get that fucking sword out of there and have him hit in the head with it. I mean, there was a lot going on.
I've literally never seen a more insane idea for, I know how I can be an effective villain. I will charge into combat with this sword down
let's face it, there were no notes or pitches for that one. It was just a Tim Burton fever dream.
There are 100 moments like this in this movie, and every one of them is crazier than the last.
It is the one Batman film. There's so many Batman films that try, the Nolan films in particular, that try to bring Batman into the real world. This is the one that embraces the craziness of Batman's world.
Absolute madness. And honestly, every moment of this movie, when I watch this movie, every single moment, I'm happy and excited. Yeah. I get so excited when I hear the opening music in the film. I get so excited that the sort of framing device with the Penguin,
who's
childhood,
scary.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
That version of the Penguin is incredible.
So weird.
I showed this
Oswald Cobblepot when he with the scene where he's like. Well, I suppose it could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. And he just bites the guy's nose off. I quoted that all the time with my siblings growing up.
And, oh, by the way, this is the movie that sneaks in the dirtiest word ever used in a superhero film. They had to send a lawyer out to find out. On set, they were like, can we actually have him say Poontang? Because Poontang is the filthiest possible way of saying vagina. And so one of the characters says to the Penguin, we want you to run for mayor. He says, no. He says, well, let's try to convince him. Yes, let's use words. Well, hey, you have money, you'll have power, you'll have unlimited Poontang. To which he finally goes, all right, I'll be mayor.
But he is just filthy and disgusting. Yep. Every scene, he's so hideous.
To this day, I still hear people complaining about an invasion of penguins with rockets on their back.
Welcome to Batman.
To which I say, that is exactly Batman. Screw you.
That is Batman, and
that's the only Batman I'll ever want.
and what I love about the Tim Burton Batmans is that Batman is the detective that he's supposed to be. There's not.
Yeah, I don't recall a single moment of detection.
No, he's not like he's not a detective in the sense of Sherlock Holmes, but he's definitely trying to figure shit out. He's like in his Batcave, like analyzing shit. He's suspicious of the Penguin. He's trying to. He's going through the files and everything. Like he's doing something. It's not just action.
This is true. While Alfred is doubting him, I love that scene where Alfred is like, "Are you still investigating that courageous Penguin man?" It's like, what?
And people complain about the Penguin funeral, but I fucking love the Penguin funeral.
I like everything in that movie. I like what you're saying.
I like the attempted infanticide that the film opens with.
Yes, I love that opening.
Is so terrible.
The opening when I was a child, or not a child, but when I was young and I watched this movie, I loved it. I didn't really think about how dark it was.
Or,
I watched it as
how
an
it was
adult.
an analogy for Moses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Risen
It's such a twisted
figure
Moses story.
character.
It's so twisted, and it's so dark when he eats the cat in the beginning. The baby eats the cat in the beginning of the movie, and then the parents throw him over the fucking bridge. It's insanely dark.
It is a wonderful, wonderful, perfect film.
It's a perfect
I
film,
only
and
think
I
about
will not
10
hear
movies
anything
ever
negative
made
about
are
this.
perfect.
And that was the film that made the studio panic and go, oh my god, we gotta get Joel Schumacher in to save this series.
Yep. It is a magic
Oh,
film.
we didn't even talk about Catwoman.
No,
Just
but let's
Michelle
just mention at
Pfeiffer.
least the other two titles, because he did make two other
Parrot
movies.
of My World.
He made Beetlejuice, which I am absolutely fond of. I like everything about the movie. I think watching it now, it's astonishing that a movie with that many crazy things happens in it. I mean, this is a light family film to a lot of degrees, except there's a scene early in the film where Gina Davis, on camera, in a fairly creepy moment, pulls her own face off to try to freak someone out, and it is awful looking. For a split second, you're like, and then it just goes right back to being a comedy.
Yeah. It's the tone in Beetlejuice is so
Anytime
perfect.
anyone turns into claymation for a second is freaky.
Yeah.
Yep.
The effects in the film are absolutely astounding, and
everything looks so good.
it looks so good going back. And you
Everything.
watch that movie and you're just like, why the CGI? You know, you look at that and he has this aesthetic and it's so gorgeous, and it ages. You know, this movie's what, 30 years old now?
It's 31 years
31 years old.
Yeah.
And it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
When that sculpture comes to life and starts, it's
Everything.
amazing.
Even the stop motion sandworm things, they fit the movie.
The movie's so weird. That the weird house renovations, all the creep. I
Yeah.
love this movie.
I do too.
But yeah,
And,
it was all downhill from
Let's just touch on, as we have 80 seconds left, let's touch on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which I also do love, and I think
As do I.
is a much, much better film than anyone thinks it is, because Tim Burton made that movie better, as far as I'm concerned, because you only have to look at Big Top Pee-wee to see where it all could have gone wrong, or the more recent Netflix Pee-wee Herman movie, which is the worst thing ever made. The original Pee-wee's Big Adventure is written by Phil Hartman, as well as...
Oh, wow, really?
as well
I did not
as
know that.
Paul Rubens and a few other people. Yeah, Hartman was a writer before he was a successful SNL actor,
And ultimately murder victim.
ultimately murder-suicide.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Hi,
You're
I'm
being
Troy
so mean
McClure.
today,
You may
Shane.
remember me from such murder-suicides as.
Oh, jeez.
With that note of us all being pretty okay
And you're
with
claiming
Pee-wee.
I'm doing the mean jokes today.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's been one I've been telling that joke for 25 years. With that in mind, we are going to let you go for today. We've got 20 seconds left. I have been Michael Brody. I have been ably joined today by Shane Simmons and Tess McRae. This has been a retrospective of Tim Burton stuff. Any final thoughts as we fade into the distance?
It's not too late to make one more good film, Tim. You can do it.
Turn off the CGI button.
I think that's the perfect moment to go out on.
Claymation. Go back to the claymation. It's all in the claymation.
Take care. Take care, everybody. We'll be back next week. I faded up the auto DJ a little fast there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was okay. It played in the background as I was saying goodbye. It was alright.
You guys want donuts? There are donuts left over.
Oh my God, no.
In the other
They're,
office over there.
I
Really
have
good.
to tell you, they're a little too good.
They're not
Oh,
too
really?
good.
Yeah, like don't say no right away.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Say
there's
yes.
also a knife there. You can cut a piece off. They're Polish
They're
donuts.
Polish donuts.
Oh, yes.
Phenomenal.
Really delicious.
All cut the craft candidates have been disqualified from the CSU election.
Enjoy your experience. I
Thank
hope it's
you.
I
I'm
hope
excited
everything
and
goes
kinda
off.
nervous.
Are they here yet?
They are. They've been
Okay,
practicing.
great.
Have you guys
Oh
seen
yeah.
them?
I've
Yeah,
heard
Yeah, I'm
drumming,
sorry about the
I'm just used to the drumming, right?
Right, yeah.
Danielle Vandalder Baudouin violated election bylaws by encouraging students to vote for the cut the crap slate.
Today was a good day
while
for
the
me.
election
I
was
convinced my
ongoing.
landlord to come
He is
over
now
before I had to leave for
preparing
this
any
to fix my
CSU
heaters.
election
Oh.
from the
Because
next
I've
year.
been pestering her to
Referendum
do that for a
questions
week.
and
They
council
broke.
positions will not be
So she
affected
did
by
come by,
this disqualification
and they
for the
disassembled them.
CSU.
All their parts in.
Montreal
Tried
taxi
to
drivers
make it work.
blocked the city Friday morning, protesting the
With a
tax
promise of,
proposed
we'll go
bill
back
to
eventually.
reform the industry.
So now I used
Drivers'
to have
main point of
barely
contention
functioning-
is the phase
barely
out of taxi
functioning heaters.
service.
Now I have no